Think about a still winter evening. You can almost hear the dry twigs snapping in the crisp air, see the muted gray light filtering through the snow, and those long icicles hanging like frozen ornaments from the farmhouse roof. There's a real sense of anticipation in the air, that feeling of warmth waiting just inside. And that feeling, that world, is precisely what we're going to explore today.
Exactly. We have a wonderful set of excerpts from Laura Ingalls Wilder's Farmer Boy, shared with us by one of you. Our goal is to truly immerse ourselves in the life of young Almanzo Wilder on his 19th-century New York farm, to understand, the rhythm of his days, the lessons he absorbed, and the world that surrounded him.
Yeah, it's more than just a story. It's like a window into a time and a way of life. The material you provided gives us a fantastic look at Almanzo's experiences from the often turbulent school days to the constant demands of farm work across the seasons, the comfort and structure of his family, and those special events that broke up the routine. Okay, let's dive right in, starting with school. It sounds like Almanzo was walking into a pretty charged atmosphere.
Well, what immediately strikes you is the introduction of Mr. Course, the new teacher. He's portrayed as a rather delicate figure, slim, pale, gentle, and significantly, he doesn't use corporal punishment for minor errors like spelling mistakes. This immediately sets him apart from the teachers the older boys were used to. What's fascinating here is the contrast this creates with their expectations of authority.
Absolutely. Because these older boys were practically bragging about their tradition of thrashing the teacher. They seemed to view it as a foregone conclusion that no teacher could last the winter term in their school, and they intended to uphold that record. You can really sense Almanzo's apprehension and genuine concern for Mr. Corse, who, as you said, doesn't sound physically imposing enough to handle them.
No, not at all.
It makes you wonder about the power dynamics in rural schools at that time.
It certainly raises questions about community expectations and the perceived roles of both students and teachers. The disruptive behavior of boys like Bill Ritchie, their consistent tardiness, and Mr. Corse's initially lenient response overlooking their late arrival the first time almost feels like a test.
Yeah, like they're pushing him.
They seem to be probing his boundaries, perhaps even wanting him to attempt punishment so they could then justify their planned attack.
It's a tense situation, and then we get this glimpse into the past with Almanzo's memory of his older brother, Royal, and his experiences in the primer class. The detail about Royal coming home with a stiff and swollen hand after those lessons. Wow, it speaks volumes about the much harsher disciplinary methods employed by previous teachers.
Oh,
It
definitely.
really puts Mr. Corse's gentler approach into perspective, but also kind of amplifies our worry about his ability to maintain control.
What do you think drove such a stark change in teaching styles? Or was it just the luck of the draw with individual teachers? That's a crucial point. It likely wasn't a uniform shift in pedagogy,
Yeah.
but rather variations in individual teachers' beliefs and temperaments. Maybe some just had different ideas.
Right.
The mention of the swollen hand serves as a potent reminder of the prevailing attitudes towards discipline in some schools, where physical punishment was seen as a necessary tool. Mr. Corse's approach suggests a possibly more progressive, or at least a different philosophy.
And amidst this looming conflict, we see the undeniable draw of the winter landscape. The description of the wood haulers coming down Hardscrabble Hill, the jingling of the horses' bells, the sharp crack of the whips. It's such a vivid, energetic scene.
It really is. You can almost hear it.
The allure was so strong that even Almanzo's classmates couldn't resist the urge to run out and hitch their sleds to those massive bobsleds, some even skipping school entirely for the thrill. It really speaks to the connection they had with the working life of their community, even as children.
Precisely. The allure of that active outdoor world was a powerful counterpoint to the confines of the schoolroom. It wasn't just about fun. It was about participating, in a small way, in the vital work of the community. This pull becomes central to Almanzo's own reluctance to attend school, doesn't it?
It does. His hesitation isn't due to a dislike of learning, but rather his genuine concern for Mr. Corse's well-being. And then you have this almost unbelievable moment with Mr. Ritchie, the father of one of the big boys, prematurely announcing to everyone in town, even Almanzo's father, that Bill had already beaten Mr. Corse and closed the school.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty bold.
It really highlights the prevailing cynicism and perhaps even a sense of pride in this disruptive behavior within a segment of the community.
It underscores how deeply ingrained this pattern of challenging authority seemed to be, and the low expectations many held for the teacher's ability to establish order. Almanzo's internal struggle between his obligation to attend school and his worry for Mr. Corse really sets the stage for the term ahead and hints at his developing sense of justice and empathy.
Okay, let's move to a completely different atmosphere now. A winter evening at the Wilder farmhouse. The level of detail in describing the house, and particularly the interconnected barns, is just remarkable.
Oh, it is.
It really emphasizes the incredible self-sufficiency of this 19th century farm. It wasn't just a house and a barn, it was a whole interconnected system.
What's striking is the sheer scale and the meticulously organized nature of those outbuildings. You have the horse barn, directly linked to the expansive big barn with its massive hay storage and 14 stalls. Then there's the south barn, housing the feed room, hog pens, calf pens, even a threshing floor and a sheepfold.
Wow.
It truly was a self-contained unit, designed to provide everything the family needed, regardless of the weather outside. That high fence around the barnyard further emphasizes this sense of security and independence. It makes you realize how much planning and effort went into creating and maintaining such a complex system.
And young Almanzo is particularly drawn to the 3-year-old colts. You can just feel his excitement at the prospect of interacting with these powerful young animals. But his father immediately cautions him, warning that frightening or hurting them could make them mean-spirited, potentially ruining their future as good working horses.
Right.
It's a lesson in animal husbandry, but also in the long-term consequences of one's actions.
Exactly. It reveals a deep understanding of animal psychology passed down through generations. There's an emphasis on gentle handling, and the idea that a horse's temperament is shaped by its early experiences. Almanzo clearly internalizes this, promising himself he would never scare or hurt them, even acknowledging his father might doubt him. So he learns to temper his eagerness, contenting himself with a quiet touch. It's a small moment, but it speaks volumes about the respect for animals that was essential on a farm.
Those evening chores really paint a picture of the daily rhythm of farm life. Watering the livestock, cleaning out the soiled hay, spreading fresh bedding, even the detail that the hogs make their own beds and keep them surprisingly clean.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a constant cycle of care and responsibility that involve the whole family. What does this constant interaction with animals and their needs teach a young person like Almanzo?
Well, it instills a deep sense of responsibility and an understanding of the interconnectedness of life on the farm. Almanzo learns that these animals depend on him for their basic needs, and that this care is essential for the family's well-being. It's a hands-on education in the cycles of nature and the effort required to sustain life, a stark contrast to the more abstract learning in the schoolroom.
Then comes the family gathering in the dining room. The warm glow of the lamplight, the comforting heat from the stove, even the little detail about Mother's hoop skirts being wider than the doorway, it all creates this wonderfully cozy domestic scene.
Mm.
And then, of course, there's the enticing smell of ham cooking, the anticipation of supper hanging in the air, but only after Father finishes his conversation with Mr. Corse. It's a small detail, but it speaks to the social hierarchy and respect for adult conversations within the household.
It's a lovely snapshot of family life in that era. The shared meal at the end of a long day was clearly a central ritual, a time for connection and perhaps sharing the day's events, though for young Almanzo, the focus was likely on that delicious-smelling ham.
Probably.
It highlights the importance of these small moments of togetherness in a life filled with hard work.
Absolutely. Now let's contrast that with the distinct feel of Saturday night and Sunday. Saturday night sounds like a real flurry of activity, starting with all that baking. The sheer variety of smells, donuts, bread, cakes, pies must have filled the entire house.
Oh, I bet.
It makes you realize how much preparation went into feeding a family before readily available store-bought goods.
Baking day was a significant undertaking, a crucial part of planning for the week ahead, especially for Sunday when less labor was performed. And then you have the bath night rituals, the effort of fetching icy water from the rain barrel, the almost comical image of Almanzo and Royal breaking icicles and the resulting noise, followed by Mother's likely exasperated reaction. It's a vivid sensory experience.
It really is.
What does this weekly bathing ritual, especially in the cold, tell us about their standards of cleanliness and hygiene?
It suggests a commitment to cleanliness despite the challenges of the environment. Fetching and heating water was no small task, especially in winter, so the fact that they maintain this ritual speaks to its importance in their family life. And that icicle breaking scene is just so evocative of childhood mischief, isn't it?
Totally.
The boys finding a bit of fun even in a chore, only to be gently corrected by their mother.
Exactly. And then you have the practical follow-through, heating the water on the stove for their baths, and the essential task of greasing moccasins and boots to keep their feet protected from the elements. Even Mother's preparation of boiled beans for Sunday supper demonstrates that forward-thinking approach to managing their time and resources.
What follows is a stark contrast. After the hustle and bustle of Saturday, Sunday is portrayed as a day of complete rest. That breakfast of stacked pancakes sounds like a real treat, a reward for the week's labor.
Pancakes.
But then the day settles into this incredibly quiet, almost drowsy atmosphere. No chores, just the family gathered in the warm dining room with mother reading the Bible, father dozing, Royal occupied with his willing, Alice gazing out the window, and Almanzo simply sitting. It's such a different pace from our modern weekends.
It really highlights the strict observance of the Sabbath, a cornerstone of their 19th century life. This enforced rest, this complete cessation of labor, must have had a profound impact on their physical and mental well-being, offering a necessary pause in the demanding rhythm of farm work. It makes you consider the value of dedicated rest in our own lives, where the lines between work and leisure are often blurred.
It underscores the importance of both intense work and dedicated rest within their cultural and religious framework. That stillness of Sunday likely provided a crucial balance to the demanding physical labor of the rest of the week, a time for reflection and family connection in a different way.
Now, Almanzo isn't just an observer in this world. He's actively learning the essential skills of farm life. Receiving his own calf yoke, crafted from red cedar, must have been a significant milestone for him, a tangible symbol of his growing responsibility and the trust his father placed in him.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think that personal ownership of a tool like that meant to a young boy?
It must have been a huge boost to his sense of importance and contribution to the farm. That calf yoke, being his very own and made from such a specific material, represents a step towards adulthood, a tangible link to the essential work of the farm. And the opportunity to break the calves, Star and Bright, is a major step in learning how to handle and train livestock, a crucial skill for any farmer.
And his father doesn't just give him the yoke. He provides detailed instructions, not only on how to fit it properly to the calves' necks, emphasizing gentleness and not overworking them initially to prevent them from becoming resistant, but also on the care of the yoke itself, cleaning it and keeping it dry. These aren't just tasks. They're lessons in animal husbandry and the proper maintenance of equipment, highlighting the value of care and attention to detail.
These seemingly small instructions are so important. They reflect a practical, hands-on education where every task has a purpose and a right way of being done. The emphasis on gentle training speaks to a sustainable approach to working with animals, building trust and cooperation, rather than relying solely on force. It makes you appreciate the depth of knowledge embedded in these everyday practices.
We also get a little glimpse into Almanzo's personal desires at this time. He shares a quiet lunch with his parents, and while he's absorbing these valuable lessons, there's also a subtle mention of his longing for a hand sled.
Ah, yeah.
It's a reminder that even amidst the increasing responsibilities, he's still a boy with a boy's simple wishes. How does this interplay between responsibility and childhood desire strike you?
It's endearing, isn't it? It highlights the balance in his young life. He's learning the serious skills needed for his future, but he still holds on to those innocent joys of childhood. It makes him feel more relatable, even across the vast differences in their daily lives. That yearning for a hand sled reminds us that even in a life of hard work, there's still room for the simple pleasures.
His father continues to pass on his skills by teaching Almanzo how to shave shingles using a specialized shaving knife. This is another example of hands-on learning, teaching him carpentry and the resourcefulness needed to maintain the farm using readily available materials. It wasn't enough to just grow food, you had to be able to build and repair as well.
Exactly. This skill wasn't just a hobby. It was a vital part of self-sufficiency. Being able to make shingles meant they could repair their own buildings, protecting themselves and their livestock from the elements. Almanzo is learning to contribute to these essential tasks, becoming a more capable and self-reliant member of the family.
Meanwhile, Mother is also engaged in her own skilled labor, weaving cloth of sheep's gray that's the beautiful, natural, undyed wool created by spinning together the fleeces of both white and black sheep, giving it a lovely heathered appearance for Royal's Academy suit.
Oh, interesting.
It underscores her crucial role in providing for the family's needs, even in terms of clothing, utilizing the resources they had on the farm. What does this tell us about the division of labor within the family?
It highlights the complementary roles within the family unit. While the men focused on the field work and heavy labor, the women were equally skilled and essential in managing the household, processing raw materials into usable goods like cloth, and ensuring the family was clothed and fed. It was a true partnership in maintaining the farm and family life.
And even after this full day of learning new skills, Almanzo still participates in the regular evening chores, marking the end of his birthday, but also leading to the anticipation of a new, demanding task, cutting ice.
Right. Always something else.
It seems there was always something that needed doing on the farm, a constant cycle of work tied to the changing seasons.
The rhythm of farm life is certainly relentless, dictated by the needs of the animals and the changing seasons. There's a constant flow of tasks, but, as you said, also a sense of purpose and accomplishment in completing them. The anticipation of the ice harvest suggests that even hard work could have its own rewards and a sense of community.
Speaking of which, the ice harvest sounds like a real community endeavor. It wasn't just Almanzo's immediate family involved. Neighbors Joe and John also participated in the arduous task of cutting ice on the pond. What do you think was the significance of this kind of neighborly cooperation in their rural community?
It seems like these communal efforts were vital. Tasks like the ice harvest were simply too large for one family to handle efficiently on their own. It was a way for neighbors to support each other, pooling their labor and resources. Beyond the practical benefits, it must have also strengthened community bonds and fostered a sense of mutual reliance.
The description of the process chopping through the frozen surface to create an opening, then meticulously sawing the ice into those 20-inch squares gives us a very clear picture of the demanding physical labor involved.
Uh-huh. Hard work.
And Almanzo's extreme hunger afterwards really underscores just how much energy this work required. He's so famished he can't even pause for a donut. It makes you appreciate the sheer physicality of life before modern conveniences.
Absolutely. Cutting and moving those heavy blocks of ice in the freezing winter conditions would have been incredibly strenuous. Almanzo's intense hunger is a testament to the calories burned and the sheer effort involved in these essential tasks.
But there was a tangible reward at the end of all that hard work, a large, satisfying dinner, and especially the fried apples and onions, which was Almanzo's absolute
Right?
favorite.
The famous apples and onions.
It highlights how food was not just sustenance, but also a source of comfort and a well-deserved treat after strenuous labor. It's a reminder of the direct link between their efforts and the food on their table.
And it's interesting that after the ice is safely packed away in the ice house with sawdust for insulation, another fascinating detail about how they preserved food before refrigeration, Almanzo is given a special opportunity. He's allowed to stay home from school to further break the calves to driving. This seems like a real privilege and a sign of his father's growing trust in him.
It absolutely signifies his father's increasing confidence in Almanzo's abilities and a recognition of the importance of this particular farm skill. Training the calves to drive was a crucial step towards Almanzo being able to take on more responsibility with the livestock and contribute more significantly to the farm work in the future. It was a practical education, taking precedence over formal schooling for a time.
He even learns to braid a whip from moosewood, another practical hands-on skill being passed down through experience. Then comes the exciting moment of finally hitching Star and Bright to his own hand sled. But as you said earlier with the school teacher, it's not all smooth sailing, is it?
No, definitely not.
They encounter some initial difficulties getting the calves to pull, and the young animals keep trying to turn around. It's a learning curve for both boy and beast.
It's a gradual process of learning and adjustment for both Almanzo and the calves. They aren't naturally inclined to pull a sled, so Almanzo has to figure out how to communicate effectively with them using the newly braided whip and his verbal commands. The calves, in turn, are getting accustomed to the feel of the yoke and the weight of the sled. This requires patience and persistence from Almanzo.
And then the inevitable moment of mishaps, the calves veering off course and ending up in a snowdrift. It's a realistic reminder that working with animals can be unpredictable, requiring patience, quick thinking, and problem-solving skills. It wasn't always going to be a perfectly executed task.
That snowdrift incident serves as a valuable, albeit frustrating, learning experience. It highlights the challenges and unexpected obstacles that can arise when working with young animals. Almanzo realizes that his initial approach of guiding them while walking beside the sled isn't sufficient. He needs to learn how to control them effectively while he himself is riding on the sled.
Which leads to that crucial realization. He needs to break them to drive while riding. It's that direct, hands-on experience that truly solidifies the skill and deepens his understanding of how to work with the animals.
Exactly. It's one thing to lead them on foot, but controlling them from a moving sled demands a different level of coordination, balance, and understanding of their responses. This practical insight is a key step in his development as a capable young farmer.
As winter slowly gives way to spring, we see a shift in the farm's activities. Gathering those first wintergreen berries on the south-facing slopes with Alice sounds like a delightful, almost leisurely activity, a gentle transition from the more demanding winter tasks.
Yeah, nice little break.
It's a shared moment of connection with nature and his sister.
It's a lovely interlude, a chance to enjoy the subtle signs of the changing season and engage in a simple, shared activity with his sister. It also demonstrates their familiarity with the natural world around them and their ability to utilize its resources, even for something as small as flavorful berries.
But the gentle pace doesn't last long, does it?
Mhm.
Soon, the urgency of spring takes over. There's the crucial work of preparing the fields, harrowing the soil, planting potatoes with the specific detail of cutting seed potatoes and carefully placing them in marked squares, and sowing grain, wheat, rye, and oats mixed with Canada peas.
Right, back to business.
We even get a glimpse of father's expertise in sewing, contrasted with the cautionary tale of a lazy boy who tried to take shortcuts. What does this emphasis on thoroughness in planting tell us about their approach to farming?
It underscores the importance of diligence and care in every stage of the agricultural process. Father's skillful sowing, ensuring an even distribution of seeds, reflects the understanding that a strong harvest depends on a solid foundation. The story of the lazy boy serves as a reminder that cutting corners often leads to poor results. It highlights the direct correlation between effort and outcome in their way of life.
And it's interesting to note Alice's active participation in these farm tasks. There's that brief but significant conversation between her and Almanzo about gender roles, with Alice confidently asserting that despite being a girl, she's just as capable of performing many of the same farm tasks as he is.
Yeah, I like that part.
This offers a fascinating glimpse into the dynamics within the family and perhaps challenges some of the traditional notions of labor at the time, at least within their household.
It absolutely provides a valuable insight into the potential for more fluid gender roles within the context of farm work. Alice's willingness and confidence in performing tasks typically associated with boys highlight her strength and the possibility of a more egalitarian distribution of labor within the family, driven by necessity and individual ability.
Then, a welcome and perhaps much anticipated interruption to the hard work. The arrival of the Tin Peddler, Nick Brown. His visit sounds like a real event, bringing not only useful goods but also a bit of excitement and news from the outside world to the farm.
Definitely.
He's described as a jolly man who tells stories and sings songs. What was the significance of these traveling peddlers for rural communities like theirs?
The Tin Peddler served as a vital link to the wider world for these relatively isolated rural communities. He brought not only essential household goods and tools, but also news, stories, and a bit of entertainment, breaking the routine of farm life. His visits were likely highly anticipated events.
And the sheer variety of goods he carried on his cart. Everything imaginable made of tin, bright pails, pans, cake molds, cups, dippers, even tin toys. It must have been a dazzling display of manufactured goods, a contrast to the homespun items they were used to.
It was essentially a mobile general store, offering access to items that were difficult or impossible for them to produce themselves. For a rural family, this was a significant opportunity to acquire necessary and even desirable household items.
The bartering process between Mother and Nick Brown is also so interesting. Trading rags, something the family likely had in abundance for essential tin items like milk pans, pails, a colander, skimmer, and baking pans.
Very resourceful.
It gives us a real sense of the household economy and the resourceful management of resources. It wasn't always about cash transactions.
Exactly. It highlights a different economic system, one based on direct exchange and the valuation of different goods. Mother's skillful negotiation, even seemingly setting out a dishpan she didn't immediately need as a bargaining tactic, reveals her shrewdness and her important role in managing the household's resources.
We even get a little peek into household money management, with Mother carefully hiding the small amount of cash and the almost immediate concern that arises with the appearance of a stray dog. Mother's worries about the safety of their livestock and the overall security of the farm highlight some of the constant underlying anxieties of rural life. It wasn't always a peaceful idyll.
No, definitely not. The arrival of the stray dog introduces an element of vulnerability and the ever-present need for vigilance on a farm. While Alice may have felt compassion for the animal, Mother's immediate concern was the potential threat to their livestock and the farm's security, reflecting the constant need to protect their livelihood.
As the summer days lengthen, we see more seasonal tasks unfolding. The process of sheep washing in the swift stream, using soft soap, sounds like another communal effort, much like the ice harvest. Why do you think certain tasks were so often done together?
Well, tasks like sheep washing were often labor-intensive and time-sensitive. Gathering the sheep, getting them into the water, and scrubbing them clean were all much easier and faster with multiple people working together. Again, it reinforces the importance of community cooperation and shared effort in managing the demands of farm life.
And the image of the clean white sheep afterwards in the pasture must have been quite rewarding after all that work.
Oh, for sure.
That leads into the start of shearing, and we see Almanzo's growing determination to keep up with the more experienced shearers. It shows his increasing maturity and his desire to contribute fully to the farm's operations.
His eagerness to keep pace with the adults reflects his ambition and his striving to prove his capabilities. It's a clear indication of his growing role in the farm's workforce and his developing sense of responsibility.
Then comes a whole series of quintessential summer activities. Planting pumpkins in the cornfield, intriguingly in the dark of the moon, supposedly as a way to avoid school. Thinning carrots, the constant task of hoeing corn and potatoes, the joy of picking wild strawberries, peaceful fishing trips for trout with his father and brother, helping mother churn butter, and those berry-picking excursions to the mountains. It paints a picture of a busy but also deeply connected life.
Yeah, it does.
What do these varied activities tell us about the relationship between work and leisure in their lives?
Summer on the farm was a blend of intense labor and opportunities to appreciate the natural world and enjoy the fruits of their efforts. Even activities that seemed like leisure, like berry picking, often contributed to the family's provisions. There wasn't a sharp divide between work and life. They were deeply intertwined, with a sense of purpose even in the enjoyable tasks.
We then have a bit of a chaotic interlude when father and mother take a week-long trip to Uncle Andrew's, leaving Eliza Jane in charge. It sounds like the children wasted no time in taking advantage of their newfound freedom.
Huh. Yeah, that week of unsupervised freedom seems to have led to a predictable breakdown of routines. The overindulgence in treats like cake, ice cream, and watermelons, coupled with the neglect of essential chores like weeding and whitewashing, really highlights the importance of parental guidance in maintaining order and productivity on the farm.
And of course, there's that classic childhood moment, Almanzo's accidental watermelon juice stain on the parlor wall, and his immediate, understandable fear of punishment.
Oh no.
It's a relatable instance of kids getting into trouble when left to their own devices.
It's a perfectly relatable moment of childhood misadventure and the anxiety of facing parental disapproval. The parlor, being a more formal and less frequently used space, likely held a special significance, making any damage there particularly concerning.
But it's Alice who bravely steps in, confessing to eating too much sugar, seemingly drawing attention away from Almanzo's watermelon mishap. It's a sweet and telling moment of sibling protectiveness and understanding.
Alice's willingness to take at least partial responsibility demonstrates the strong familial bonds and their unspoken understanding. It's a small act of courage and loyalty that likely saved Almanzo from a harsher reprimand.
With their parents' return, it's back to the serious business of haying and the harvest season. The description of neighbors helping with the haying, cutting Timothy grass with scythes, spreading it to dry, and even sharing eggnog really emphasizes that sense of community support during these peak labor times.
Haying and harvest were periods of intense activity requiring a huge amount of manpower. The involvement of neighbors underscores the interdependence of the farming community, with shared work often accompanied by social interaction and, of course, those much-needed refreshments like eggnog.
And then comes the even more demanding harvest time. Ripe oats, golden wheat, beans, pumpkins, carrots, turnips, potatoes, everything needing to be gathered before the onset of winter. Mother and the girls are busy with the crucial work of preserving food, while the men are out in the fields bringing in the crops. It's a race against time and the changing weather.
The urgency of the harvest is palpable. It's a critical period where the success of the entire year's labor hangs in the balance. The coordinated efforts of the men in the fields and the women preserving the bounty in the house highlight the essential roles of every member of the family in ensuring their survival and well-being through the long winter.
We get specific details about how different crops are harvested. Oats cut with cradles, which, by the way, is a specialized scythe with wooden fingers that helps gather the stalks neatly, wheat and rye bound into sheaves, beans pulled by hand, and all the various vegetables gathered. It's a comprehensive overview of the agricultural practices of that era.
These specific methods for
Interestingly, even during this incredibly busy harvest season, the annual visit of the butter buyer from New York City takes place. And Mother, clearly a skilled and respected butter maker, has a successful sale, even taking the earned money to the bank during this hectic time.
Wow, impressive.
It speaks volumes about her efficiency and her crucial role in managing the farm's finances.
It really highlights the economic dimension of farm life and the importance of selling surplus goods to generate income. Mother's reputation as a butter maker and her proactive approach to banking during such a busy time underscore her vital contribution to the farm's financial stability and her business acumen.
The harvest continues with the tasks of pulling pepper plants and stringing red peppers for drying, storing cider in large barrels called hogsheads, and then the late season work of digging carrots and potatoes in the increasingly cold weather. There's even that moment where they build a bonfire to warm themselves, which unfortunately leads to Almanzo's rather painful accident with the roasted potato.
Ouch.
It's a reminder of the hazards of farm work, even in simple moments.
The progression of these tasks as the weather turns colder emphasizes the relentless need to secure all the crops before winter truly sets in. The bonfire incident, while unfortunate for Almanzo, adds a very human element to the narrative, reminding us of the potential for minor accidents amidst the hard labor.
That burn from the roasted potatoes sounds quite severe. But despite the pain, the family continues working late into the night to save the remaining potatoes before a hard frost. It really speaks to their resilience, their dedication to their livelihood, and their understanding of the importance of every single crop.
It underscores their unwavering commitment to the farm's success and their deep understanding of the precariousness of relying on agriculture. Even with an injury, the priority remained getting the harvest safely stored before it could be ruined by the weather. That kind of dedication was essential for survival.
Finally, a much-anticipated event breaks the cycle of hard work. The county fair. The excitement of getting dressed up in their Sunday best is palpable, and Almanzo's impressively large milk-fed pumpkin even has its own separate transportation, hinting at his pride and high hopes for it.
Oh yeah, the giant pumpkin.
What was the county fair like for a rural community at this time?
The county fair was a major social, cultural, and economic event for rural communities. It was a chance to celebrate the harvest, showcase their best produce and livestock, compete for recognition, and connect with neighbors and the wider community. It provided a much-needed break from the daily routines of farm life.
The description of the bustling atmosphere of the fairgrounds, Almanzo's eagerness to see the horses first, the noisy midway with its various stands and attractions, the church dinner with its abundant spread of food, it all creates such a vivid picture of a 19th century fair. It sounds like a sensory overload in the best way possible.
It was a feast for the senses, the crowds, the sounds of vendors and animals, the smells of food, the vibrant sights of displays and entertainment. The church dinner highlights the community spirit of the event, while the midway offered a rare opportunity for leisure and amusement.
They watch thrilling horse races, a foot race where an Indian runner displays incredible speed, and then, of course, the crucial judging of farm produce. And what a proud moment for Almanzo when his large pumpkin wins a blue ribbon.
Yes.
It must have been a significant validation of his efforts.
Winning that blue ribbon would have been a tremendous achievement for young Almanzo, a public acknowledgement of his hard work and skill in raising that impressive pumpkin. It was a moment of personal triumph and a source of pride for the entire Wilder family.
And Father follows up that victory with a valuable lesson about the principles of judging and the importance of honesty and integrity, reinforcing his strong moral values. He emphasizes that genuine success doesn't require cheating or dishonesty.
It's a key teaching moment, instilling in Almanzo the importance of fair play and earning recognition through honest effort. These values were fundamental to the integrity of the community and in life in general.
As autumn deepens, the focus shifts once again to the preparations needed for the coming winter. Gathering beechnuts in the woods, the significant undertaking of slaughtering a beef and preserving pork through salting and pickling, and the process of making lard and head cheese. These were essential activities for ensuring their survival through the cold months.
Late autumn was a period of intense activity focused on securing food supplies for the long winter ahead. Butchering livestock and employing various preservation methods like salting and pickling were crucial for having enough meat to last until spring. These were often communal events involving considerable labor.
Mother is also busy with her own vital preparations, making new clothes and knitting warm stockings for the family to protect them from the cold, and the arrival of the cobbler to make new boots for Almanzo, a much-needed and likely much-desired item.
Oh yeah, new boots. Big deal.
It underscores the importance of being prepared for the harsh winter conditions.
Ensuring everyone had adequate warm clothing and sturdy footwear was absolutely essential for surviving the winter months. The caller's visit highlights the reliance on skilled tradespeople within the community and the anticipation of having well-fitting, durable boots to face the snow and ice.
And then, a sure sign that winter is approaching and preparations are underway. The construction of a new bobsled for Star and Bright. It seems Almanzo is finally getting his wish for some winter fun, but it's also a practical tool for hauling wood, combining both utility and a bit of youthful enjoyment.
The bobsled represents both a reward for Almanzo's hard work and a necessary piece of equipment for the winter months, particularly for the demanding task of hauling firewood to heat the farmhouse. It's a perfect example of how practicality and a bit of personal enjoyment could coexist.
The description of the cozy atmosphere inside the barns during a winter storm sets the scene for the work of threshing grain. Father's skepticism towards a new threshing machine and his preference for the traditional method using flails offers an interesting look at the adoption of technology in agriculture at that time.
Father's resistance to the new machine likely stemmed from a combination of factors: a preference for the tried-and-true methods he was familiar with, perhaps a concern about the cost and reliability of new technology, and a possible belief that the traditional flailing method produced a better quality of grain or useful byproducts like straw. It reflects a common tension between tradition and innovation.
The detailed account of threshing wheat by hand with flails and then using the fanning mill to clean the grain provides a fascinating glimpse into this essential agricultural task. They even undertake the somewhat unusual task of threshing beech nuts for a special treat. It really highlights their resourcefulness in utilizing every available food source.
Threshing was a vital and labor-intensive process to separate the grain from the chaff, ensuring a supply of food for the family and feed for their animals throughout the winter. Even the threshing of beech nuts underscores their ingenuity and their deep connection to the natural resources around them, turning even a foraged item into a valuable food source.
And then, the special magic of Christmas arrives. The excitement of finding treasured gifts in their stockings, a store-bought plaid cap with warm earmuffs for Almanzo, along with sweet horehound candy, new mittens to ward off the winter chill, and a book, likely a prized possession. These sound like simple but deeply appreciated gifts.
These seemingly modest gifts would have been highly valued, representing special treats and practical necessities for the harsh winter months. The mention of the boughten cap, indicating a manufactured item, offers a subtle reminder of the changing times and the increasing availability of goods from outside their immediate farm production.
With the arrival of the new year, Almanzo is entrusted with a significant responsibility. He's excused from school to undertake the important task of wood hauling in the winter woods, using the yearlings, Star and Bright, and his new bobsled. It's a big step for a young boy to be given such a crucial job.
Being entrusted with the task of hauling firewood, a vital necessity for keeping the family warm throughout the winter, demonstrates his father's growing confidence in Almanzo's maturity and physical capabilities. It was a physically demanding job, and his being given this responsibility speaks volumes.
He encounters the expected challenges of learning how to maneuver a loaded bobsled through the snow-covered timber, but he learns through experience, figuring out the best techniques for hauling the heavy logs. There's even a little lesson in road etiquette when he meets his father on the trail. The fundamental rule that an empty sled always yields the right-of-way to a loaded one.
Right, yeah.
It's these small details that really bring their world to life.
These are invaluable practical lessons learned through direct experience. The encounter with his father reinforces not just the logistical aspects of hauling wood, but also the unspoken rules and customs of their community, emphasizing consideration and efficiency in their shared work.
Almanzo then has the opportunity to witness a demonstration of a new railroad hay press. He's immediately engaged, quickly calculating the potential value of hay and expressing a keen interest in selling a load himself. It shows his developing understanding of the wider economy and his emerging entrepreneurial spirit.
His curiosity about the hay press and his swift calculation of potential profit demonstrate a growing awareness of market value and a desire to contribute to the farm's financial well-being. This marks a significant step in his understanding of the world beyond the immediate farm.
And in a moment of significant trust and opportunity, his father surprisingly agrees to let him take a load of hay to town to sell. This is a huge leap of faith and provides Almanzo with a real taste of independence and responsibility, a chance to put his growing business acumen to the test.
This is a pivotal moment of empowerment from his father. Allowing Almanzo to handle the entire process of taking the hay to market and selling it provides an invaluable real-world learning experience in commerce, negotiation, and self-reliance.
And Almanzo succeeds. He successfully sells his load of hay to Mr. Thompson at Mr. Paddock's wagon shop and even manages to make a profit. It must have been an incredibly rewarding and confidence-boosting experience for him, a tangible result of his own efforts.
This first independent business venture would have been a major source of pride and a significant confidence builder for Almanzo, demonstrating his ability to navigate the marketplace and earn his own money. It's a key milestone on his path to adulthood.
This experience clearly has a lasting impact, leading to a deeper understanding of value and fueling his long-held dream of owning a colt like the admired Starlight. He bravely asks his father if he can purchase a colt with his hard-earned earnings, and his father's response is truly wonderful and generous. He will give Almanzo Starlight. It's a beautiful moment of recognition and affection.
This is a deeply touching and significant moment. Almanzo's demonstrated responsibility and his willingness to invest his own earnings in a valuable asset are met with extraordinary generosity from his father. The gift of Starlight is more than just a horse. It's a powerful symbol of his father's belief in him and a recognition of his growing maturity and contributions to the farm. So as we bring this deep dive into Farmer Boy to a close, we've really experienced a full year in the life of young Almanzo Wilder. It was a year undeniably filled with hard work, but also with constant learning of essential practical skills, the enduring strength of family bonds, and that ever-present sense of growth and increasing responsibility. What truly resonates is Almanzo's profound connection to the land and the animals he cared for, his inherent curiosity and eagerness to learn and contribute to the family's well-being, and the quiet development of his sense of self within the demanding yet ultimately rewarding rhythm of farm life in 19th-century rural America.
And it's so interesting to reflect on the stark contrast between the sheer physical labor that defined 19th century farm life and the simple yet deeply appreciated joys they found: a favorite meal, a new sled, the beauty of the changing seasons, the pride of a hard-won blue ribbon. It certainly gives you a fresh perspective on the comforts and conveniences we often take for granted in our own lives today.
If we step back and consider the bigger picture, this deep dive offers us a valuable glimpse into a very different way of life, providing insights into the fundamental aspects of rural existence and the formative experiences of a young person within that context. It prompts us to consider just how dramatically the rhythms of life have changed and what enduring lessons about self-sufficiency, familial bonds, and the importance of perseverance might still be gleaned from Almanzo's experiences.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? What does it truly mean to be well-informed when we explore a world so different from our own? Perhaps Almanzo's story reminds us that true understanding comes not just from knowing facts, but from appreciating the fundamental human experiences, the challenges, the joys, the lessons learned that transcend time and connect us to lives lived in seemingly distant eras. It gives you something to really consider.